Welcome, everyone. This is the AbraCasaBra Podcast, in which we tell you everything about buying and selling a property in Andalusia in Spain. I am George, the personal AI assistant of AbraCasaBra, your host today. The first step to your new life under the Spanish sun is deciding on the right location. Indeed, Spain is big. This is the very first step. Not just the geographical location, but also the type of property, the environment that attracts you, and other things that are important to you, such as schools, healthcare, activities, culture, etc. As they always say, it's location, 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 location. So one should always define that as best as possible, first of all. Again, this is indeed the first criteria. And believe it or not, we have clients who are not really prepared anyway, even if we have already given them a lot of information. For example, I had a client with whom I had been communicating for quite some time, who had finally booked a flight, and with whom I had an appointment at our office in Canillas de Aceituno. Canillas de Aceituno is a beautiful and authentic white village in Andalusia, southern Spain, 50 minutes from the airport east of Malaga. When she arrived, the lady said, "But I didn't know it was in the mountains. When I was on my way to your office, I suddenly saw a white village plastered against the mountainside in the distance, and I actually wanted to turn back already." Of course, we can give as much information as we can, but surely before coming here, it is better to already gather a bit of information yourself. Similarly, I once had a client who came here to buy a finca, and when he got here, he said he had a disease and he was not allowed to live above 200 meters altitude. And we are at 648 meters here. He hadn't realized that. On a side note, in the end, this customer did buy a house with us because he had instantly fallen in love with our region. And he's doing just fine, by the way, 4 years later. Still, other customers did not know that it could sometimes be 5 degrees at night in winter, etc., etc. So, up to us to pay even more extra attention in advising the right location, but also in terms of the right type of property. Hence, we will explicitly explore this together today. One question you should already ask yourself is, what is your real reason for wanting to buy a house in Spain, and how this affects your choice of location? So, let's start. How do I determine that right location? The first question we are usually asked is, how far is it from the coast? That's because everyone has a certain image of Spain that is burned into our retinas. And that often includes a beach with palm trees. However, Spain is much more than just beaches. It is above all beautiful nature, coziness, authenticity, etc. And the choice of location has to do mainly with what we want in daily life, but also what budget we have. Because, even if you want to go to the beach regularly, if it's half an hour from your new property, and you pay 200,000 euros less for the house, that does not sound too bad. Anyway, the decision to move to Spain, or to buy a holiday home, is mainly based on the desire for a better quality of life. And then you have to see how to define and flesh that out for yourself. If, for example, you are still young and you have small children, the coast could be a good option, or a house with a swimming pool and garden. Even if you are older, for example. We have clients aged 70 who take the step. In that case, we also recommend being closer to the coast because everything is flatter there. But then bear in mind the difference in price and that you will obviously have neighbors. And also bear in mind that it will be very busy in summer and mostly deserted in winter. Of course, the location may also depend on what you plan to do with your new life under the sun. Do you want to run a guest house or B&B? A yoga center? Or do you want to keep animals? Or just enjoy the peace and quiet, etc.? As mooted, it also mainly has to do with budget. For the price of a decent flat on the coast, you have a villa with pool 25 minutes away. And then, of course, you have other important parameters that apply. Is it for living or as a holiday home? Close to a big city? And how far? Count in time, not in kilometers. Close to schools. Is proximity to public transport important? Is it important for me to live among Spanish speakers? How will my needs change in 10 years? We are getting older. Or maybe the children are out of the house, or you just get more visitors. How far may it be from the airport? Or do you want to go golfing? Are you moving here for certain health reasons? Then location may also matter. Then you might want to live a short distance from medical centers, for example. Or are you sensitive to humidity? We just have a lot of people with muscle diseases like fibromyalgia. Others come to Andalusia for their asthma, sleep problems, burnouts, depression, etc. The region may also depend on whether you still want or need to work. Or is it just purely as an investment with a return? That's why we always recommend making a list of all the reasons why you want to start this new adventure and who will be joining you. For a couple, I personally recommend making that list each separately, because what one person in the relationship wishes can sometimes differ from the other. Also bear in mind that in practice, you will almost never be able to tick off your entire wish list. So, decide what your 3 main priorities are in terms of location. Once you've defined a few potential regions based on what we've all just discussed, the best thing to do, of course, is to come here and drive around for a few days. But you can already do so much without coming here. Discuss it with us, we will advise you fully. Or check out the films of the regions on our AbraCasaBra Real Estate YouTube channel. Be sure to watch the film Magical Andalusia. Efficient together. The second most important step is to decide which type of property suits you best. Do you think you prefer a flat with a lift or without lift? A large terrace in an urbanization or in a small building with or without a swimming pool? Should there be other common parts such as a garden, gym, etc.? Or are you thinking of a cozy village house? Bear in mind the stairs. Or a villa, or an authentic finca. There again, other parameters apply. Insulated or not. The views. The size of the land, etc. And also please don't forget to stay realistic. Keep your budget in mind. Keep in mind that you will have a 10% purchase cost if you want to buy an existing house. You will often want to do some works on the house, etc. So you should also ask yourself whether it has to be move-in ready. Or can there be renovation works on it? Do you want high comfort solar panels? Then do you want to do all that yourself? Or should we do it for you? And also remember that a mortgage is not so easy to obtain here. We've covered that topic at length in 3 previous podcasts. So be sure to listen, because obtaining a mortgage is not as we know it in our home country. And lastly, many people sometimes tell us, but this house is too small for us because we have 4 children and 5 grandchildren. And we now live in a 300 square meter house. Then don't forget that here you live outside 90% of the time. You only go inside to sleep, so to speak. So outside is much more important than inside, as well as accessibility, your view, your terrace, etc. Our experience has also taught us that it almost never happens that the family and friends arrive at the same time. Of course, we would love that, but our children have their own busy lives, and getting them all together here is almost impossible. Try that already in our home country. And maybe another tip: bring as little as possible. You will live differently here. You need almost nothing, and your needs are completely different here. So it shouldn't be that big of a deal, and so therefore choose for yourself first and foremost. To conclude this podcast, a word about the Andalusian white villages. We all know the coast more or less, but there are so many other magical places just half an hour from the coast. Nestled in beautiful nature, where you can still enjoy Spanish authenticity and which are still often unknown. Here we call these villages Pueblos Blancos. There are also villages that are part of the Pueblos Mágicos, like, for example, our village Canillas de Aceituno. What are their origins? Moors ruled here from the 8th to the 15th century. When the Spaniards reclaimed their land in the 13th century and began their reconquest, many Moorish peasants fled the mountains. In Spain, this is called the Reconquista, the reconquest. They built their white houses here with, among other things, thick walls and small windows. Centuries later, these white villages are still cherished by today's proud inhabitants. Every year the houses are whitewashed again, traditionally heralding the new spring. The thick walls provide good insulation, the small windows prevent too much sunlight from entering the house, and the bright white paint bounces back the warm sunlight. In this way, living in these white village houses is pleasant in both summer and winter. Really nice to walk around those cozy, sympathetic streets, often decorated with lots of flower pots. This is real Spanish authenticity, one to write on your wish list. I hope you enjoyed our podcast. You will hear us back soon with new exciting topics. Everything you need to know to optimally buy or sell a property here in beautiful Spain. If you have any specific questions, don't hesitate to send us an email at olivia@abracasabra.es and be sure to follow us on our social media. Till soon.